Hello, Web3 TV. It's Ornella Hernandez, and I'm at the Consensus Conference in Austin, Texas. I'm sitting here with Max, who is the head of growth at Flare. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Is this your first time at Consensus?
It's not my first time, but it's my second time at Consensus.
And how does it compare to your past time here?
I'd say that it's slightly warmer this time, which is interesting. It's a great energy. It's very bustling. I was last here in 2022, and I feel like there's definitely a lot of excitement.
Yes, definitely. It's a great turnout. Day 2, packed house. I've been speaking to a lot of interesting people, so excited to talk to you, especially since I've spoken to Hugo, your colleague. So would love to get to hear from your side. What's going on at Flare? What's new? What updates can you give us?
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, everything has been moving on quite a pace at Flare since you spoke with Hugo, I'm guessing, back in February. We've had some recent kind of launches. The F-Assets beta has launched in a closed beta, so we've had some good testing taking place, and obviously that's getting rolled out over the coming months as testing continues.
So what does that mean exactly, F-Assets, and what does it do?
Okay, so well, basically Flare was initially created to effectively provide Web3 functionality, like smart contract functionality, to chains that don't have them. So for instance, Bitcoin or Dogecoin or XRP. And so we've basically been rolling out that kind of bridging infrastructure that's trustless and decentralized, doesn't require people to rely on a centralized counterparty. Kind of like a peer-to-peer agent system that people can use as Bitcoin, XRP, Dogecoin holders to kind of use their tokens in a Web3 ecosystem, like a smart contract ecosystem, like a way of kind of using DeFi protocols.
Okay, amazing. So then what is the purpose of these F-Assets? Are they Flare assets? Is that what it stands for?
So the purpose of the F-Assets bridge is effectively to enable these users to bridge their tokens to a network in a trustless, decentralized way that doesn't rely on a centralized entity that might exist. It uses kind of over-collateralization by agents where they have to put up kind of the collateral to protect the position. And the reason behind it is it's kind of it's all done on chain, if that makes sense. And so it gives users this functionality with the kind of peace of mind that they'll know that their assets kind of are protected.
But do we need that?
Well, there have been some events in the past where there have been centralized entities that maybe were offering perhaps yield rates that people might have sent their tokens to, like Bitcoin or XRP, and perhaps perhaps some of those entities may have no longer been able to function due to lending those out. And I think having a system that's quite transparent and done on chain, where you know exactly who's holding your Bitcoin, due to Flare's native oracles being able to prove that in a decentralized way, that's where that becomes, I guess, a bit more interesting.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more then about Flare's oracles and what makes them unique and differentiates them from other protocols out there.
Sure. I guess the first place I would start is saying that Flare is a layer 1 EVM chain that uses the Ethereum virtual machine. And the reason why that's important is effectively builders who maybe have launched protocols on Ethereum or on Polygon or on any of those other types of networks can bring their protocols to Flare, and they're coded in Solidity. The difference is with Flare is that we have our own native oracles that are enshrined at the network layer. They inherit the security of the entire layer 1 chain. And the way that's different is that I don't really see that kind of built into other layer 1 networks. They typically rely on third-party oracles to deliver the data that comes, because blockchains are very self-referential. They kind of know exactly what's happening inside them, but can't necessarily look over there and tell you what's happening over there.
But I think it's because we work in silos, and that's not necessarily a good thing, in my opinion, if we're aiming for more collaboration and interoperability especially. But I also know that at Flare, you guys are integrating a new stablecoin. So talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yes, so actually in the past week, we were very pleased to be able to announce that effectively, there has been a natively issued stablecoin, effectively coming to Flare and to Songbird, called USDX. It's issued by Hex, which is a custodian. And so the funds are very much kind of like held by the custodian, and the benefit is that it launched at the same time as a treasury-backed vault, so that users who get hold of USDX, which is the native stablecoin on Flare now, can put it into the vault and gain exposure to real-world asset yields.
Okay, and this is a USD-backed stablecoin?
Yes.
Okay, so does it compete with USDT Tether, USDC Circle, Ripple's stablecoin now?
I mean, it's of the same kind of mechanisms behind it. It's very much, it's a custodian-issued stablecoin. So USD-backed, the reserves are held, in either USD, fiat, or treasury equivalents. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Max, I would love to hear your story a bit and how you got into this world of crypto and blockchain, your background, and what makes you stay in it and wake up every day and go to work.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I guess, so I've actually chatted with quite a few people this week, and it's been really interesting to hear how similar people's random journeys are into the space. I've met quite a few people who are ex-TradFi. I myself was a stockbroker, but then I became a musician for a while.
What kind of musician?
Americana. And
Do you sing or do you play instruments?
both, actually. Guitar, and did some production, singing, the usual stuff. I actually came to Austin for the first time for the South by, where we were playing shows.
Amazing. I also came to South by a couple years ago, but not to Consensus. This is my first time at Consensus. Yeah, but I've been to South by Southwest.
I should ask you, how's your first Consensus experience?
Going great so far. Talking to a lot of great folks here.
Good. Yeah, no, so I basically got into the space back in 2020. I'd been through the financial crisis as a stockbroker and seen kind of the issues of the lack of transparency of, CMOs, CDOs, the tranching, and kind of the lack of provenance. And I think when I fell down the DeFi rabbit hole in 2020, like so many people, not that many people though, like just probably a subset of society.
We're still in a bubble.
We're still waiting for the mass adoption, but it's coming if we can abstract away the complexity. I kind of got into the space there, and it seemed that with the smart contracts that were being developed on EVM platforms like Ethereum and other kind of sort of L2s, that there was an opportunity really to start bringing transparency and some of the mechanisms that I think weren't available back in the traditional financial system to the world. And I think I kind of was inspired by that. I felt like there could be some opportunities to really move things into a new paradigm.
Okay, amazing. So now going back to something that we just spoke about, that we haven't really hit the masses, and given that we are at the Consensus conference, what do you think is hindering mass consensus or mass agreement of blockchain's potential to change the world?
Well, I guess I would say that blockchain is not necessarily the simplest thing to understand, and I think it will become hopefully something where people don't really realize they're using it. And I'm sure you've heard this a million times over the last number of years, but it really is like, hopefully, when you take your money out at the ATM, or when you used to in the past, or when you go and like tap your phone or your card on the payment thing, you wouldn't necessarily need to know exactly what's happening on the back end.
I don't, definitely.
Yeah. And it's very curious that everyone does want to know. I get it. Maybe when we get to the solutions where you just press the button and it does all the stuff, and you don't really know what's happening, but you know that the data is protected, you're able to kind of get your transactions settling almost immediately, at least same day, T plus 0, then that will be when mass adoption happens. So I think it's up to the blockchains and the developers that come to them to really create the applications that abstract away that complexity, that kind of hide it, so that people don't really need to know, but they'll still benefit from all the benefits of blockchain.
Okay, so simplicity. Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Max, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.